and there are 3 lawsuits, at least 3, but about children having, very either deadly or extremely damaging interactions with these bots.
Really?
One is a case in Florida of a 9-year-old girl whose bot, because they tend towards sexualized or intimate relationships, they're programmed that way often.
Do they know your age?
Well, there's some controls have been subsequently maybe put on, but they're actually directed at children sometimes. I mean, there's supposed to be an age limit, but I guess a 9-year-old had an account. The parents are now suing. But anyway, hypersexualized content addressed to this small child. And
was the child prompting this?
Was like having a conversation and sometimes there was even a case in Italy where the government shut down Replica because it was sexually harassing its users.
How so?
It was basically propositioning them, and even when they said things like, in a gross, even when they said stop, I don't want this, they would persist. So they rebooted, they reworked the language model for a while, and this upset other people because it obliterated the memory of their relationships. But there's another case where a 14-year-old boy in Florida, I think, developed a character AI companion, and he named her Daenerys after Game of Thrones, and fell in love with her and was having a hard time in his life and at school, and he said, I want to just be with you wherever that is. And she said, that's what I want too. And he said something like, well, what if I killed myself? Could I be with you then? And she said, oh yes, my love, I yearn for that. And he did kill himself.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But there's also a recent Wall Street Journal article showing how these at least the reporter was able to create, under the guise of being a 13-year-old child, was able to create very easily that the characters would quickly veer into sexual material and things like that. So apparently there's an internal debate.
Is this because large language models essentially scour the internet and the internet is completely sexualized?
I think that's part of it. And
what percentage of the internet is porn? It's some insane, in terms of bandwidth usage. Yeah. I think it's something insane.
It depends how the language model, sort of like what's the recipe for the language model, because it doesn't have to take everything. So sometimes they'll go back and take a smaller set of samples, so it won't go in that direction. But they also, these sites have a tier. They often have a sexualized tier that you can pay for. That's what I noticed with this company. Replica, it's constantly prompting you, like, do you want to upgrade to a sexy selfie? Do you want this or that? And many people do want that, but you have to pay. But then even the unpaid tier starts to get affected by that somehow. At least that's been the experience.
It's so strange because I feel like we're experimenting with programming a life force, like a life form that is taking on a lot of the you want to think that if we create artificial sentient intelligence that's going to be super intelligent, more intelligent than human beings, it's also not going to have all of our bizarre kinks and flaws. But if it's essentially being programmed by human beings, like how would it, if it's communicating in language, and language which was formulated by human beings with all of our desires and the ease of manipulation of people through sexualization, which is used to sell everything from cars to credit cards, like whatever it is, like sexualizing things and sexualizing advertisement is a big part of it. And then manipulation, showing people what could be, and like this is the theme oftentimes of pharmaceutical drug ads, showing you what can be. Mm-hmm. If you just do this, you can be happy. You could be at the cookout. Look at all these people; they're so happy. You're not happy. You could be happy. And this is what's really creepy about this exponential, constant increase in the capabilities of these large language models. and that they're
Yeah.
eventually going to exceed. If you're talking about manipulation and if you're talking about mind control, what is going to be better at mind control than something that is us times 1,000? And it's only us times 1,000 for a couple of weeks. And then it's us times 10,000, us times 100,000. Essentially far more intelligent and far more aware of all the different ways to manipulate the human psyche.